Principal Zixither had seen many peculiar things. In his 3 decades of running the Galactic Academy for Interspecies Education, he had witnessed crystalline students accidentally shattering during gym class, gaseous beings getting stuck in ventilation systems, and even a hive mind collective arguing with itself during debate club. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the day Benjamin walked into his office. With a dragon at his side, the human stood there, barely reaching Zixither's mid-thorax, with an expression of complete nonchalance. Beside him, curled protectively around his shoulders and extending down to the floor, was what could only be described as a genuine, fire-breathing dragon. Its scales shimmered between crimson and gold, and smoke curled lazily from its nostrils. Mr. Harrison, Zixither's translator, buzzed, struggling to convey his mixture of alarm and confusion. That is a Class 7 apex predator from the Draconis system. It is banned from all educational facilities across 14 quadrants. Benjamin scratched behind the dragon's ear fins, eliciting a rumbling purr that rattled the achievement plaques on the wall. Her name is Addison, sir, and she's not just any dragon, she's my friend. Zixither's 17 eye stalks quivered in disbelief. The concept of friendship existed in his species, certainly, but it was a carefully calculated exchange of resources and social standing. One did not simply befriend an apex predator capable of incinerating half the campus. Friend? The principal repeated, his vocal sacs deflating. Mr. Harrison, friendship is a social contract between beings of relatively equal standing. That creature could consume you in a single bite. So could you. Technically, Benjamin pointed out, gesturing at Zixither's impressive mandibles. But you don't, because we have an understanding. Same with Addison. The dragon Addison turned her massive head toward the principal, and her eyes, like molten amber, studied him with unsettling intelligence. Then she did something that made Zixither's chromatophores flash in alarm. She smiled. The issue, Zixither said, attempting to regain his authority, is that school regulations explicitly prohibit. I've read the regulations. Sir, Benjamin interrupted gently. Section 47. Paragraph 12 states that students may bring companion animals that pose no threat to the student body. Addison has never harmed anyone. She set fire to the biology lab last week. That was an accident. She sneezed. It happens. Zixither slumped into his ergonomic hovering chair, designed specifically for his species' complex body structure. In all his years, he had never met a species quite like humans. They were category 4 on the sentience scale, nothing remarkable. No natural armor, no venom, no telepathy. Yet somehow, they had befriended, tamed, or allied with nearly every dangerous species they encountered. How did this even happen? The principal asked warily. Benjamin's face brightened. I found her egg on Draconis Prime during our field trip last semester. It had fallen from a nest and was abandoned. I kept it warm, and when she hatched, well, he shrugged. She imprinted on me. I couldn't just leave her. Addison nuzzled against Benjamin's cheek, a gesture so gentle and affectionate that it seemed impossible from a creature with claws that could shred starship hull plating. You raised an apex predator from infancy. Zixither stated flatly. I raised a friend from infancy, Benjamin. Corrected. There was that word again. Friend. Zix. Thor had studied human culture extensively. When the species first applied to join the galactic community, their capacity for forming bonds was well documented with their own kind, with other species, even with non-sentient animals. But this seemed beyond even typical human behavior. What do you gain from this relationship? Zixither asked, genuinely curious now. There must be an exchange. Resources, protection, status. Benjamin looked puzzled. I gain Addison. She's funny, she's loyal, and she listens when I need to talk. Last week, when I failed my quantum mechanics exam, she stayed up with me all night while I studied for the retake. Didn't say a word, just kept me company. Dragons cannot speak, Zixither pointed out. Not with words, no, but she communicates just fine. Benjamin paused, then added, she likes you, by the way. I beg your pardon, Addison. She thinks you're interesting. She's curious about your species. She's never met a Zephrosian before. Zixither looked at the dragon, who was indeed watching him with what might have been curiosity rather than hunger. Tentatively, he extended one of his smaller manipulator arms. Addison lowered her head, allowing him to touch the smooth scales of her snout. They were warm, almost hot, and vibrated with that same deep purr. Something shifted in Zixither's understanding. This wasn't about dominance or utility. This wasn't a transaction. This was genuine affection between the beings who had chosen each other's company. "I had a clutch mate once," Zixither found himself saying, surprising even himself. "We did everything together, even though our adult roles in the colony would have been completely different. When we metamorphosed, our castes separated us. I have not spoken with them in 20 years. It is efficient, but do you miss them?" Benjamin asked softly. The question hit Zixither like a plasma bolt. Did he miss them? By all logical measures, no. They served different functions now. Different castes. Contact would be inefficient, but there was an ache deep in his thorax. That had been there for 2 decades. "Yes," he admitted. "I miss them very much." Benjamin smiled. "That's friendship, sir. It's not about what you get. It's about who you get to be with." Addison chose that moment to release a small puff of smoke, not threatening, but almost comforting. Like a warm blanket, Zixither sat back, his mind reeling. For 30 years, he had run this academy on principles of order, regulation, and efficiency. But watching this human boy and his dragon companion, seeing the pure, uncomplicated joy in their bond, he realized he had been missing something fundamental. "Very well," he said finally. "Addison may stay. However, I will need to draft new safety protocols. Install fire suppression systems in your dormitory." And Benjamin's grin could have powered a small sun. "Thank you, sir. You won't regret this." As boy and dragon bounded out of his office with equal enthusiasm, Zixither pulled up his communicator. He had a call to make, one that was 20 years overdue. Perhaps it was time to learn about friendship himself.